brings dollars into the treasury. That increases revenues. It also cuts expenses, because the majority of those people are also receiving benefits from the federal government. Secondly, in order to have sustained growth, real growth, we need more than 2%. That is a bare minimum. We need about 250,000 jobs per month being created, and we need about 4 to 5% quarterly GDP numbers.
And where are we going to get it if there isn't money put into the economy?
Well, I'll tell you.
To do it. It's not going to come out of the private sector.
Well,
that's for sure.
it sounds like you and I have a bit of a difference of opinion as to where those dollars would come from. And I respect your opinion. But the stimulus program was designed to do that. I think most people at this point feel that it was not. It didn't work.
It wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
Okay, there are some people who think we should. Okay, so we spent $800 billion, and we should have spent what, $1.2 trillion, $1.4 trillion? I respect some.
In that range, probably $1 trillion, $1.4 trillion, $1.5 trillion.
I personally don't believe that that is the solution. What I personally believe is that the way, you don't have to lay people off. I mean, the president has added about 150,000 federal jobs since he's been in office. You know, when I was mayor, I reduced the number of employees through attrition, not through laying people off, through attrition. What I did was you go in and cross-train employees. When you lose an employee to retirement or they leave to another position, another company, you maximize through greater productivity the number of employees you have. You reduce your expenses. You find ways to increase your output, which means bring more commerce, more development, more economic development to your local community, or in this case, the country. And the way I think you do that is through a set of reforms: tax reform, regulatory reductions. Send a message of predictability to job creators that they are not going to get taxed more, that their liabilities are going to, they know what their liabilities are going to be. And over time, you see...
Jobs come from demand, though. If you don't put on any employees, unless you need more employees to do the job. If you don't have orders in your order book, they're not going to be,
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think the government, by spending more borrowed money, is going to solve the problem. I believe that a job creator has the power and the ability to move that economy, but they need an environment where they feel the predictability and consistency in order to do that. And I don't think that's what we're getting. Remember, we've had 29 consecutive months of unemployment over 8%. We've had 2.5 years now of this approach, and I don't think it's working. And the reason I listened to the president's comments today, right before I walked in, is I wanted to see what he had to say about this position, about this issue. Interestingly enough, the two things he said were that we need tax reform and we need changes in entitlements. The President of the United States is saying this. I mean, at some point, we have to stop looking at the problems through a Democrat lens or a Republican lens. We have to open up the balance sheet and look at it, and how would you structurally change if this was your balance sheet, whether it's your business or your family's balance sheet. And I'll tell you, this is where I think communities, cities and towns, are much more effective than the federal government. You tend to look at it from an actuary standpoint and not through the political lens. And that's what I see as a fundamental problem in Washington. Everything is viewed through a political lens, not through a lens of how do we balance our books. Yes.
Frank, you did a hell of a job in Manchester. I met you at the first Tea Party rally in your park. We had 3,300 people there. You spoke there. But I think you've really fumbled the ball in Washington. You people control the purse strings, and you had the biggest chance of your life to balance the budget. All you had to do is stop this increase in the debt limit. And the debt would have been paid out of revenue that comes in daily and weekly and monthly. The debt would not, we wouldn't have failed to pay our debt. But what it would force everybody to do, you people, would have to face the remainder of the revenue would have to be doled out, and we would have to cut something. And what you people, the president scared everybody to death, the old folks, us old folks. Oh, we're going to lose our Medicare. We're going to lose our Social Security. No, they are not entitlements. They are financed by payments into them. Now, if Medicare hasn't got enough money to pay for it, well, you have to raise the rates so we can get enough money to pay for it if people want Medicare. But you really fumbled it. You guys, the Republicans, can never stick together. 50% of you voted for this raise, and 50% of you voted against it. Now, you should have stuck together and made the Congress and the Senate bite the bullet. Enough said.
Well, okay, let me talk about, I'll answer your question this way. When I became, well, I'll respond to the comment in this way. I know his question is. It was pretty clear in his comment. So, when I became mayor of Manchester, for those of you who don't know, I replaced a mayor who raised taxes 6 consecutive years in a row. And I was a former state rep, a small business guy, and alderman in the city. And I said to people in the city, I think there's a better way of representing and improving our city than annual tax hikes. And I campaigned for the better part of a year saying, I'm going to do things differently. So if you look at a 6-month period of any one of my 4-year tenure, 2 terms, you could probably find lots of things you would disagree with. But when you look at the tenure, 4 years, and that I cut borrowing in half, and mind you, we had a board of aldermen, you guys are familiar with this here in Dover, I had a board of aldermen of 14 members, 2 Republican, 1 independent, 11 Democrats. I had a veto authority, so it's a strong form of mayoral government. What I said is we're going to cut borrowing. This is at the first year, this is before the recession started, so I'm going to cut borrowing by 50%. Borrowing level's too high. We actually got it done. I then fought for tax cuts. I didn't get it the first year, but the second year, we were able to deliver on the first tax cut in a decade in our state's largest city. And then I fought for a spending cap for about 2.5 years, still fighting for it. I mean, the Supreme Court just opined on it. Over the course of 4 years, I was able to put spending caps in place, cut taxes, cut borrowing, streamline government, and focus on the delivery system of the services that we are supposed to be providing. Do I feel a sense of frustration, like you and many others do, that things aren't turning around quick enough in Washington? Absolutely. But I'm taking a one bite of the apple at a time approach, because this is the largest ship in the ocean, and I have learned and realized it's impossible to turn it on a dime. But over time, we can make substantive and real change. Now, time is of the essence. I agree with you. Our debt is extremely high. Our ratio of debt to GDP is extremely high. The credit rating, the credit agencies are starting to react. By the way, I'm probably one of the few members of Congress who actually sat in front of the rating agencies as a mayor, arguing to keep your credit rating or increase your credit rating. I appreciate and understand what their considerations are. And they really just want to know that their bill is going to be paid. They don't care if it's through tax revenue or through spending cuts. They want to know that you can pay the bill. Now, you are correct. If the debt ceiling was not raised, that bill was always going to be paid. I have no qualms with that statement. I also believe that Social Security and Medicare would have been paid. I also believe that unemployment insurance would have been paid, and I believe that our troops would have been paid. That exhausts 100% of the revenues for August. The reason you had an August 2nd deadline imposed by Secretary Geithner is from August 3rd to August 31st. It was $135 million shortfall based on our revenues and our expenses for that month. So let's play this out. If there was no agreement put in place, today is the 8th. It would be 6 days after the 2nd. Where would we be today? It's probably an impossible question to answer with 100% certainty. And as challenging as this past week has been, and today has been, I would argue the position we'd be in if nothing was done would be far worse. And let me define far worse. 3 credit rating agencies probably would have had a double downgrade. Not one on one downgrade, but all 3 in a double. I don't think that's good government. I don't think that's responsible. Are people satisfied with what's transpired over the last few weeks? I can tell you unequivocally, no. No one
Frank,
is
I think
satisfied.
it would have been the opposite. They would have cheered you on for bigger and better things.
People
They
might
would
have-
see that you're going to do
So,
something.
some people would have cheered me on,
Yeah.
okay? My job is to do the very best I can with the information I have and try to represent everybody. And I understand that there's certain people who are not happy with the decision that I made in my final vote. I'll tell you what most people tend to support, which was my alternative, which was cut, cap, and balance. I co-authored that bill. I sent a letter to the speaker a month and a half before it ever came to the floor, saying this is the best alternative. Because I had met with the rating agencies, I met with different groups down in Washington to determine what would stop a downgrade. And the honest assessment, and if you go through and read what S&P said, cut, cap, and balance would have been the answer. And by the way, you know, CNN, after we proposed cut, cap, and balance, got it passed bipartisanly in the House, and that night it got tabled by the Senate. CNN did a 2-day poll where 64% of the country agreed with cut, cap, and balance. I'm with you that that was the right legislation, but you know what? We couldn't pass it in the Senate. Not we, but the Senate wouldn't take it up. So, as your representative, I am now in a position to make choices at that moment in time. Governing is not easy. You've got to make decisions. You're not going to make people, 100% of people happy. I understand that. But what I'm hoping is that we've changed the debate. I mean, in 6 months, we have absolutely changed the debate in this country. We are now talking about spending cuts. We are talking about regulatory reform. We are talking about tax reform. The President of the United States is talking about tax reform and entitlement reform. There is a dramatic shift. We're not there yet, and there's a lot more work to do. But this is the beginning of turning the ship around. It's not the end. It's just the beginning. Yes?
Do you think that Medicare should be privatized?
Privatized.
Put into private insurance companies' hands?
Well, what I think we should do with Medicare is what we proposed in the budget. Some people think that's privatization. I don't believe it's privatization. What I think we did in the budget is, first of all, anybody who is 55 and older is exempted from the proposal in the House budget. That, I want people to be very clear on that. If you're 55 and older, there's no change to Medicare. A lot of people think, or have been told, that there is a change if you're 55 and older. There is no change under this proposal if you're 55 and older. So when we met in the Budget Committee with the actuaries from Medicare, they told us if you do nothing, it's going to go bankrupt in 12 years. They also told us you have 10,000 new people coming on the rolls per day. And they also told us that we are losing more doctors each and every day because of the reimbursement rate. So they didn't tell us how to fix it, but they said, you've got to do something. What we decided to do in the House is take really what was a Bill Clinton era plan, modify it a little bit, and put it in the House budget.